Hello, I'm David.
I forgot about that bit.
Yeah.
Taking a slurp. And I'm Lucy. I thought, well, I've got plenty of time. He's got to do all the cameo spiel.
No. Welcome to another Tudor Cameo episode. These very short episodes will be slotted between our regular ones, and we'll cover those characters who make a fleeting yet tantalising appearance in other episodes. We don't always have a lot of information about them, so they can't have a full episode on their own, but they're too interesting to abandon completely, and they help us fill in the gaps and enable us to create as full a picture of the era as we can. And today...
Johannes Burchard.
Oh, Burchard!
Yeah! We love Burchard.
Oh. To be honest, the more we learn about the popes, the more we can realise just quite why he was so frustrated all the time.
Yes, he doesn't come out of this as squeaky clean as we'd perhaps like, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shame.
It
We shouldn't learn about these people.
No, I was going to say, do you want to forget this one? But if it weren't for Burchard, we wouldn't know nearly as much about Popes Innocent and Alexander in particular that we do.
Yes.
He kept an official chronicle of events, which presumably was part of his job, and a secret diary, which is even more useful.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Other sources, including the diary of Stefano Infessura that I used for Innocent's episode, tend to regurgitate the rumours that were doing the rounds in Rome. But Burchard doesn't do that because he doesn't have to. He's in the thick of it.
Mm.
He's inside the Vatican, so he doesn't listen to rumours because he knows whether they're true or not. Yeah. That doesn't mean he's got no bias. Obviously he's got bias. Everybody does. Mm. And I think his temperament might skew what he writes as well. But, well, that's historical sources for you, isn't it?
I picture him with a permanent headache.
Yes. I imagine him being quite a sort of fluttery person. There's a lot of fluttering the fingers going, oh, God, what's going on?
No. Oh, are you really sure about that?
Do you think he gets dunked in oil now and again to keep all his joints going?
Oh, I had to clear up the chestnuts.
We'll come to the chestnuts.
Oh, dear.
He was born near Strasbourg around 1450. Very nice. Yes. He came to Rome in his early 30s following an interesting and mysterious incident in his life.
Oh.
He was secretary to the Vicar General of Strasbourg, but he had to leave following accusations that he'd been selling dispensations for marriage and that he'd stolen a florin and a sword.
I mean, obviously it's not right, but at the same time, that's pretty small fry.
It's an odd combination, isn't it? Oh, I'll have that florin, I can stuff that in my pocket. Oh, and I'll have that sword as well. Yeah, when we've been thinking about how shocked he must have been at the behaviour of the popes, he did have some form himself. When in Rome, he was awarded the benefice of Strasbourg, but not surprisingly, this was contested by the authorities of Strasbourg. You know, we just chucked him out. Yes. We don't want him back again. He won the case in the Court of Appeal, but even then Strasbourg refused to recognise the ruling. They were adamant, we do not want him back.
Yes.
And it's easy to say that our saintly C3PO couldn't possibly be guilty, but he did admit it.
Ah.
So it didn't stop him later being ordained as a priest, though. Which is odd, you think. He was offered a benefice in Strasbourg. So benefice first, priest second?
Wow.
Unless it was a deacon, a job as a deacon or a dean or something like that. I'm not sure.
Benefices seem quite... I mean, this episode will probably come out long after the one I'm researching at the moment, but yes, benefices seem much more to be, oh, well, I've got to pay my subordinate somehow. He can have this benefice in my gift.
Yes, it's not going to cost me anything. Yes. And, I mean, Pope Leo, was he Pope first and then priest after?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Just...
Burchard was also known as Argentinus, after the Latin name for Strasbourg, in the same way that Aretino was called that because he came from Arezzo. Mm. I can only assume that one of Jacob Fugger's silver mines must have been around there to have got the name Argentinus.
Ah, yes.
Well, at some point to be Jacob Fugger's silver mines,
Yes.
because they all were in the end. If you go to Rome now, you can visit the district of Torre Argentina, which is named after Burchard's palace, which you can also see. It's still there in the Via del Sudario.
Oh.
For those who are wishing to make the pilgrimage there, that's where it is. But it's odd. He's a master of ceremonies, and he has a palace.
Yeah. Well, then again, I mean, Master of Ceremonies was an important job. I'm sure Giles Dobney had a place you could call a palace if you wanted to.
Can't imagine he spent much time there.
No.
Burchard practised first as a lawyer, and then in 1483 he became what we know him for as the Master of Ceremonies, and he stayed in that post for the rest of his life, as well as becoming the provost of the Confraternity of Santa Maria dell'Anima, and many, many others.
It's like these business people who collect positions on boards and CEO-ships and aren't really doing anything. It's just they want the status.
Yes, ex-MPs who sort of, there was one, I think he was doing 4 days a year or something and getting a massive amount of money for it as a CEO. Yeah, very similar situation, I think. He was later made Bishop of Orto in recognition for 20 happy years as Master of Ceremonies. That seems an odd... I mean, most people get a clock or something, don't they? But he did actually spend some time there, which we shouldn't be surprised about, but we are. And the thing I found interesting was that he actually bought the post of Master of Ceremonies. And it was quite cheap as well. It was 450 ducats.
At least he bought something that isn't technically a clerical office, so it's not actually simony, but...
It's not simony, but...
Simony adjacent.
I was going to say he bought it from Innocent, but no, he'd have bought it from Sixtus. So obviously Sixtus was just as happy to sell off these things as Innocent was. He wrote several religious treatises, which are apparently very important to the Catholic liturgy, but I don't know what any of them really represented. So I decided to concentrate on the diary, because that's a more important document as far as a biographical podcast is concerned. I don't know anything about the Catholic liturgy.
I'm sure Pontifex will cover it when they get there.
Yes, I'm sure they'll do. They'll have to do Burchard, won't they?
Oh, yeah.
All the time he was Master of Ceremonies, so that's covering the papacies of Sixtus, Innocent, Alexander and Pius, Burchard was keeping his diary, but nobody knows why. It seems unlikely, very unlikely, he intended it for publication. In fact, as far as we know, no one knew about it while he was alive. His successor in the role of Master of Ceremonies, Paris de Grassis, whom we came across in Julius's episode, found it after his death, and he carried it on for a while, but not as assiduously as Burchard did.
Some people are just natural diarists, aren't they? That they just like to record their thoughts and their ideas. It's not something that I feel like, but that, you know, I know people who have kept a diary their whole life, just not because they intend to be historically significant, just because they enjoy it. And
you can look back. And I wonder if Burchard felt it as a release. He couldn't say these things about the people he worked for. But he could write them down and hide it under his bed.
Yes.
Unlike most private diaries, Burchard doesn't include his own opinions of politics and society. And he doesn't mention the artistic works going on around him.
Oh.
On his watch, Pinturicchio painted the frescoes of the Borgia's apartment. And Burchard doesn't mention this at all. I mean, people now go to Rome just to see them, but he obviously didn't. I suppose if you're walking through all day, every day and the bloke's painting away, you might not bother to write it down. It'd be just like saying, I saw old Caterina mopping the floor. I mean, it's the only thing I thought he might mention it is if Pinturicchio actually got in the way of any processions or court etiquette. He might be written it down then.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Saying, oh,
what are these scaffolds doing here?
Yes. He does include his own opinion of popes who don't do things by the book. And that's why we love him, really. If you want to understand the minutiae of papal ceremonies, sometimes at ludicrous length, his diary is invaluable. One thing that Burchard never mentions during the Borgia papacy, or any of the others, is poisoning.
Oh.
And part of his job, strangely, would be the preparing of bodies for funerals. Not something you'd expect from a master of ceremony. I wonder if Dobney was doing that as well.
It's a ceremony, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
and again, he had a lot of jobs he maybe didn't do himself. It's maybe more a case of he would supervise the person actually elbow deep in it.
Yeah, I don't think he's doing any embalming. He never mentions anyone dying of anything but natural causes. And he doesn't seem to be interested in anything that Pope Alexander might be accused of, but woe betide him if he wears the wrong cassock or steps out of the line of precedent. That's when he gets so cross. Having said that, he wasn't keen on having a Spanish pope and disliked his Spanish retinue, but I wondered if that was the German trying to endear himself to the Italian cardinals. They're complaining loudly about the foreign pope to cover up the fact he's foreign himself. There are moments in the diary when it's hard not to think, you know more than you're letting on, Burchard. The death of Prince Jem, for instance. If Jem didn't die of natural causes, which he may have done, he could have done, it's almost certain that Cesare did it.
Yeah.
And that's not something for an employee of the Pope to discuss.
No, probably be a little careful. Oh, no, the Pope's son's killed someone again.
Yes.
It's just not...
Yes, just right. It was a lovely sunny day today. I went for a walk, and so to bed.
Mind you, I suppose it's not impossible. I mean, considering how much Prince Jem drank and, like, the sheer amount of fabric in his turban, I mean, he could have just suffocated in his own turban.
Broken his neck, yes. Or got lost in his own trousers. Burchard also knew more about the death of Cardinal Orsini than he was letting on. In fact, he said he deliberately delegated the arrangements for the funeral because he just wanted to stick his fingers in his ears and say la la la. He wanted nothing to do with it. Cardinal Orsini had sided with French. He wanted to meet Charles VIII when he was in Milan, but Alexander refused him permission to go. Either Orsini was going to conspire against Cesare, or Alexander thought that's what he was going to do, and that's why he refused. Orsini set off anyway, and Alexander had him caught and thrown into the dungeon of the Castel Sant'Angelo. And that's not somewhere you want to be.
No.
Especially since 12 days later he was dead. And some say he was poisoned either by Alexander or Cesare. But pretty nasty things went on in dungeons in the Castel Sant'Angelo. Whatever killed him, Burchard didn't want to know, and he didn't discuss it. But the way he was desperate to keep his distance implies he knew what had happened, or he knew something bad had happened.
Yes, deniability.
Yes. So what did Burchard think of all the extravagance and debauchery that was said to be going on in Alexander's court? We don't know. He was very tight-lipped about it. We heard in Innocent's episode that Burchard exhausted all his shock and disgust in his papacy. What with all those illegitimate kids and the selling of offices, which, he can't have been that shocked about since he'd bought his own. By the time it got to Alexander's reign, Burchard seems to have become quite immune to it all. Even, as you say, the famous Feast of the Chestnuts is recounted in a very dry, factual way. And if you don't know, you obviously know, but if others don't know, this is a party where naked prostitutes were said to have been scrabbling around on the floor picking up chestnuts. We're not quite sure how they had to pick up these chestnuts. No. I don't know. I mean, if they're just... Well, let's leave that.
No, let's I'm just... We're wandering towards that explicit tag. Let's just come back from the brink.
I was just mulling it over, trying to think, well, hang on, if they did... No. All Burchard said was, this is what happened. What do I think of it? None of your business. That's it went on. That's all you need to know. There are 3 gaps in the diary, and it seems almost certain they were removed rather than that they weren't written at all. The first one followed the death of Innocent, and so covered Alexander's election. And I should imagine there are moments then that Alexander might not want put into print, all those bribes. Yeah. The second gap was the death of Juan Borgia, and if he was killed by Cesare, which obviously he must have been, Alexander would either not have wanted to know that himself, or he wouldn't have wanted others to know. And he did close down the investigation when it appeared to be pointing to Cesare, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see why that might have been removed. The third gap was the death in prison of Cardinal Orsini. So again, a bit awkward. But who removed the offending pages? Nobody knows. It's unlikely to be Paris de Gracis because he was working for Julius. So anything that was a slur against Alexander, if he'd torn them out, he'd have torn them out to stick them up on the wall so everyone could read them. Unless it was Cesare, or under Cesare's orders.
Could have been Burchard towards the end of his life, thinking, "Oh, the current pope." Because did Burchard live into Julius's reign? I'm sorry, I've forgotten.
No.
Oh, but he could think, well, we know at some point if someone finds this, someone takes this over. I don't want to have anything. I don't want my otherwise spotless reputation. Let me just hide that sword. Covered by what I may have known here.
Maybe. But I thought if it was Cesare, then he could have gone to Burchard and said, "No, I know you've been writing things down. Hand over the pages, and you're not going to say no to Cesare."
Mind you, I mean, with both Cesare and Alexander, they're so openly sinful. You kind of think, like, where do they draw the line? You know, where are they ashamed? Where does it move from a pretty little sin, as Isabella put it, to... Actually, we'd better cover that up.
Yes, come to think of it, would Cesare have bothered? Don't know. By 1505, Burchard was incapacitated by... It's gout, not syphilis, it's gout.
Oh, gout. Oh.
The entries in his diaries become less frequent and less about what's going on in Rome and beyond. Since he was confined to his room, he probably didn't know what was going on. And the following year, he died. His successor, Paris de Gracis, whom we were very glad to see in Julius' episode, seems to be a Burchard mini-me, as far as his exasperation at the Pope's lack of interest in etiquette was concerned, didn't seem to have a very high opinion of Burchard, and for good reason. And he wrote this while Burchard was still alive. Quote, "Granted, however new and untried I may be, like an ass at the lyre, I shall try and do my duty satisfactorily through frequent efforts and entries year by year." And so I ask that at this beginning, as I am recording and explaining the actions of so many prelates, ill-wishing detractors not laugh at my writings, especially my colleague, Johannes Burchard, who is much more of an associate in my office than my friend in charity, of which there is none in him.
Oh.
When he realised I aspired to his job, from that point he tried everything against me that he had in the power and the knowledge to do, and more, and strove to get me dismissed, unquote. So there must have been some crossover before Burchard died when he was very ill that Paris de Gracis must have taken over, and Burchard thought, nope, not doing it.
Mind you, it does seem like Paris de Gracis is kind of trying to bury the important point here, which is when he realised I was after his job. Yes. Well, yes, obviously he's not. I'm still alive.
Yes.
Wait your turn.
I like the thing about, don't laugh at me if I don't write very well. Burchard is a character in both versions of the Borgias, neither of which I've seen, nor am ever likely to see. That's the life of Johannes Burchard, considerably less savoury than I'd be expecting to say. I'm not quite seeing him as C-3PO anymore.
Yes.
He seems less an innocent in a den of iniquity than I thought. He's a little bit more part of it.
I suppose when you are living in the courts of Alexander and Innocent, it's like anyone who's just a normal level of corrupt looks quite natural compared to them.
So that was Burchard. Mm-hmm. Is he what you were expecting?
I was expecting someone who would be slightly more scandalised by everything. Particularly, fascinating that he really does care just about the ceremony. Doesn't matter about all the other stuff, but you will get the ceremony right.
Yeah, he doesn't talk about it. Whether he doesn't care about it, I'm not sure. Maybe he's so horrified, he thought, I don't know, I can't bear to write this down, frankly.
He comes across, and this is another one of those phrases which I'm not sure if we'd have to footnote for Michelle. Because I don't know if they have it in Canada. He comes across as a bit of a job's worth.
Yes.
You know, I've got this job. I'm happy with this job. Would you please stop messing with it?
Yes. I've got the book of rules. I know what should be happening. You don't, evidently. Yeah. I still like him, though. Don't know why.
Well, you always like a fun sauce, don't you? I mean, it's like all these Milanese ambassadors. I mean, they don't always come across as particularly pleasant, but we just love it that someone is gossiping.
Yes, someone's thought to write this thing down. And the gossipier, the better, because you end up with minutiae that shouldn't pass through hundreds of years of history, but have.
Yeah.
Which is always good.
So there.
Right.
There we are. So, again, we've really got to come up with an ending for the Cameo episodes.
Yeah, not as long as the spiel at the beginning, though.
No, yes. That was Burchard. Less a C-3PO, more of a slightly irritable parking attendant.
Yes. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Oh, seamless.